15 minutes of truth. Let's get into the mix. All right. Welcome to the Daily Mix, y'all. I'm your host, Omari Jahi. We spent a lot of time on this show talking about the dynamics between the man and the woman. We've talked about how God made as the foundation and woman from man's DNA as the refinement. Today we are opening our third eye and looking at the literal microscopic blueprint of human life, our DNA. In biology, women have two X chromosomes. Men, they have an X and a Y chromosome. Have you ever stopped to ask what that actually means on a spiritual level? This isn't just a science lesson. This is a masterclass in divine partnership. Why is the female code a matched pair while the male code is a mixture? What does the Y chromosome represent in the game of life? Today, we're breaking it down, the spiritual genetics of men and women. Let's get into the mix. All right, the X chromosome is the foundational block of human life. It literally you can't have a human being without it. Both men and women carry the X. It represents the shared universal human experience. Women are double X biologically. The X chromosome is massive. It carries thousands of genes. Because women have two, they have a genetic backup system, a deeper reverence, or a deeper reserve, I should say. Spiritually, this represents the engine that we talk about. Women are built with a deep, complex reserve of intuition, emotional intelligence, and endurance. Let's not leave out, they said emotional intelligence, but they need to add also that they have a double portion of emotions. We can't leave that out because women are extremely emotional. They are strictly, designed to carry, sustain, and multiply life. The double X represents a completed, self-sustaining loop of refined energy. It's the reason why women often mature faster and have that deep internal sense of knowing, that intuitive, like sixth sense, kind of like, So now let's get into the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is kind of what makes a man a man. Biologically, it is much smaller than the X. It doesn't carry as much general information, but it carries a highly specific. Sorry, my phone just went off. It don't carry that much general information, as I was saying, but it carries the highly specified trigger that changes the body's entire trajectory. Now, what is the trigger? In biology, a trigger is a mechanism, excuse me, that sets a massive chain reaction into motion. For the first few weeks of life in the womb, every single human embryo develops the same way. The foundational blueprint is female. I'm gonna say that again. For the first few weeks, the basic foundation for the fetus or the embryo, the blueprint on that embryo is always female. It always starts off as female. But if the father provided a Y chromosome, there's a specific gene on it called the SRY gene. At around the 6-week mark, this gene activates and acts as a trigger. It flips a biological switch, so to say, that tells the female body, stop that default process of the female default process. Release testosterone, build male characteristics. So that's when the male chromosomes kick in that 6-week mark. Now, what does this mean spiritually? Think of a trigger on a starter pistol at a race or turning the ignition in a car. The trigger is the initiator. Spiritually, this points to the masculine energy of initiation, action, and specialized purpose. The man's role isn't to be everything all at once. His role is to be the spark, the protector, and the specific structural rudder when it is time to move the family or the community forward. Now, on a boat, a rudder decides which way the boat goes. You may have an engine in there, but if the rudder, if you turn the rudder a certain way, then the boat goes right. If you turn it the other way, the boat goes left. If you keep it centered, the boat goes straight. Now, there are some more expensive boats that have steering wheels, but those boats, the ones where you sit in the back and you hold the little rudder and you turn it and the motor's back there and it directs the boat where it's going, right? So that's what the man is in the equation. He's the force that directs where everything is going. Especially if you're trying to move forward, that's his job, making sure that everything is in order so that the family or the community, wherever he's working at, wherever his mission is, that it's moving forward. Now, what is trajectory? Because when I saw those two words, I was like, if y'all anything like me, I don't know what these words mean. So I had to go and look them up and break them down so that because I want everybody to have a great understanding of what this is all about. What is this trajectory? A trajectory is the path or direction and object that takes after it has been set in motion. So again, it's like the rudder. The trajectory is what direction are you going to be heading in? Because that Y chromosome flipped the switch, the trigger, the baby's body completely changes its development path. Instead of continuing on the original path to become a female, which is the default X foundation, the body takes a completely new trajectory to build the physical structure of a male. It alters the muscles, develops, the bones, densify, and the hormonal system for the rest of that person's life is adjusted to male or masculinity or what's that stuff? Testosterone, that men have. The spiritual meaning to all of this is trajectory is your ultimate direction and mission. When the man provides that Y energy, he's setting a direction. This is why we say the man is the rudder. If his trajectory is off, if he's checked out, kicked out, lacking vision, or destructive, his absence pulls the entire family structure off course. I'm going to say that again. If the man, for any reason, is out of the picture, whatever the reason may be, the entire family structure is off course. Now, am I saying that that because the man ain't in the picture, the family is butt is just ass out. Am I saying that? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's off the course that it was put on by God. The structure is off course. But when his trajectory is locked in on his divine purpose, and that's again connecting to our subject yesterday. If you remember, we were talking about man having a mission and a purpose. But if his trajectory is locked in on his divine purpose, he creates a specialized, safe structure for the woman's engine to operate within. So spiritually, the Y represents the rudder. It is singular, pointed, and specialized for protection and structure. I think that's the main thing. A lot of people get caught up in this protection and provision. Those two things, they get caught up in that and think that that's the man's main duty in life. When you are born, your main duty in life is to provide and protect. And that's not true. Now, of course, we might go a little long today, but let's look at something. I've had this conversation with a couple of people, and they ain't feeling what I'm saying, but that's okay. That don't make it not true. If a man is supposed to provide for his woman, right? Does that mean that the man has to make enough money to provide for the standards that that woman wants or desires? Or is she supposed to fit into the lifestyle that his life trajectory is on? Give you an example. If this man has a job as a janitor, let's say, and he makes $15, $16, $17 an hour. He works 8 hours a day at a high school or a school, right? And so he's making enough money not to be able to buy him a home, but he's making enough money to probably buy him a studio apartment, a 1-bedroom studio, a 1 studio apartment, and then his life trajectory has to grow from there. So if he then gets into a relationship with a woman and they want to be in that relationship with each other, and she decides that they decide they want to live together. Now, most times, women, because they have been, and I don't want women to get offended by this. I'm not saying this to be negative or to down women, because I believe that there is a force, again, like I said yesterday, there's a force in the world that's working against our unity. It's working against us being together and doing things together, because that's where our power lies, And so I believe our women have been, as Malcolm said, hoodwinked, bamboozled, tricked into this government assistance concept and program. Now, this government assistance program, it causes our women to become dependent. They become dependent on that assistance. Every month they're looking for that. Now, I understand that, there are a lot of situations where those assistance is definitely needed to especially make sure there's a roof over the family's head and the children are fed and clothed and things and going to school and all that stuff, right? I get that. But again, my point here is, if if the original goal or plan was for man and woman to be together, and that's where their power lies, then to take man out of the equation, as I said earlier, causes everything to be off course. Now, if he is supposed to protect her, how can he protect her and make decisions for the family to kind of dodge and get out of the way of certain landmines that life provides? How can he do that if he's not in the picture? You see? So if you take the man out of the equation, then the woman is left unprotected. So that means the government steps in as if he's the man now. The government is the man. And he's taking care of the woman. And see, and this is how we got into this situation that we're in today. Because our women were tricked. This feminist movement, it's almost just like in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, when the serpent was whispering in Eve's ear, and Eve was tricked. And the scripture says she was deceived, beguiled, by the serpent. And this same kind of trick and bamboozling is still going on, in 1960, 1970, 80, 90, 2000s. It's still happening, But I just wanted to put that out there because that's the master trick that's been going on with us to cause this division that I've been preaching about and saying that we need to fight against it. This is where it started. Okay. But I digress. Let me get back. Because a man is XY, his internal code is a mixture, right? He has the universal human foundation, the X, but he is guided by that specialized singular mission, Y, that Y chromosome. When the X and the Y and the XX come together, the man provides the specialized structural rudder that guides that couple along. And the woman provides the massive complex engine of life. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of curious about what determines the sex of children. We're talking about chromosomes and DNA and genes and things like that. Well, what makes up a male child or a female child? What determines that? Now, here's the biological breakdown of how that genetic code comes together to create a male or a female child. If you look at this through your third eye perspective, we've been talking about the biology actually teaching a profound lesson about male responsibility and consistent sustaining power of the woman. Here is actually how the chromosomes work to determine the sex of the child. As we established, the woman's genetic code of XX, because her body is the environment where life is cultivated, her contribution to the child is steady, consistent, and guaranteed. That womb is going to be consistent. It's going to be there for that child as a resting spot, right? Every single egg the woman produces carries exactly one X chromosome. She has no Y chromosome to give. So the female always provides the universal foundation of human life. No matter what she brings, that complex, deep reserve, that X, to the table every single time. That's what she brings. So I be seeing on YouTube, they be asking about the woman, what what you bring, or the woman be asking what you bring into the table, and the women say she the table. Maybe that's what she's talking about, but it's on a whole nother different level. It ain't about that. Well, I'll just let that go. A man's genetic code, by the way, is XY. We already said that, but because his code is a mixture, his body produces two different type of seeds or sperm. Half of his sperm carries an X chromosome, and the other half of his sperm carries a Y chromosome. So the man is the variable. The woman's body is waiting with the foundation X. But it is the man's seed that ultimately decides the trajectory of the new life. The biological sex of the child is 100% determined by the father. Now, a female child, or how a female child is born, if the father's sperm carrying the X chromosome reaches the mother's eggs first, the mother gives an X, and those two X's together result in a female child. The father has passed down his foundational human blueprint to create a daughter, a new female, equipped with that double portion reserved of endurance and intuition. If the father's seed carries the Y chromosome and that reaches the mother's egg first, the mother gives an X. The father gives that Y, and the result is XY. A male child is born. The father has passed down his specialized Y trigger to his son. The mother provided the foundational X, and the father provided the specialized structure, which is Y, to create a new man. Now, the lesson or the takeaway from all of this is throughout this story, man and rulers used to blame their wives if they couldn't produce a male heir. They would divorce or just discard the woman, thinking it was her fault that she couldn't have a male child. But biologically, this reveals the ultimate truth about male responsibility. The woman is always doing her part by providing the womb of life. But it is the man who determines that outcome. He carries the deciding factor. So we about running out of time now. I started a little early today. My clock was off, and I got an alarm letting me know it was 12 o'clock, but it wasn't even 12 o'clock. It was 12:30. So I apologize for starting early, but it's going to be on my Facebook page, so you guys can go and check it out, at your leisure. So as we clear the board for today, I want you to think about how perfect our design really is. We spend so much time in society fighting over who is better, who is stronger, or who is the boss. But if you look at the very code written into our cells, the message is clear. The man has a specialized structure. Like I was saying yesterday, the man has a purpose, a structured purpose that God has placed him on the earth for. It's specialized. But we have to discover what that is. And the woman has the deep, enduring reserve. You aren't supposed to be competing. You are supposed to be combining. The XY needs the XX to see the full picture. And the XX relies on the XY to hold them both down. That's my time, y'all. I'm Omari Jahi. Stop fighting your biological codes and start leaning into your divine design. I'll catch you right back here tomorrow for another episode of The Daily Mix. Peace. I'm out.
Take care of your mind, take care of your health, and we'll be back in the mix tomorrow at 12 noon. Till then, peace out.